Hey, this is James Clayster Eubanks, and you're listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. It's episode 218, coming to you live and or pre-recorded. It is March 4th, 2020. The time is 8:34 p.m. Central Time, and this just might be the best episode ever. Never done before, but we have an emergency yikes of the week for you guys. That's right. There were two absolute major yikes that could not possibly wait for Monday's show. So Nuge said, "Give me the ball, coach." And I was like, absolutely. So we got an emergency yikes of the week. Are we turning in to a Valorant podcast? Stay tuned. But we're going to talk a lot of Valorant. A lot of news dropped on Monday. Very early on, too. Which I'm going to get into that later on in the show. And, of course, we'll have some e-news. But before we get into that, make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Our Discord link is also on there. Feel free to join. And then, of course, if you're listening on iTunes or anything else, leave a like, leave a review. 5 stars, all the jazz. We appreciate it. And we do read them. And also on our website, tcr.gg. So you can also hit us up via message, email, whatever, from there. Hello, though. My name is Tim. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj.
What's up, Timmy? How are you, bud?
I'm doing well. I got a haircut.
It looks good. You know what? I didn't even comment on it.
Well, I'm wearing a hat.
Nice. Take it off.
So here's the thing. Fair warning if anyone's watching on stream. I got it. It's still long-ish, right? Till my wife says it's still too long. Because for those who didn't see, I had some pretty long hair.
You had some locks.
Yeah, I had some curls. Some Goldilocks. And so I was like, no, I worked too hard. I don't want to cut it off. So when I have product in it, my curls really shine and I can kind of style it. There's no product in it. So just keep that in mind. I'm taking off the hat.
Let's see. Okay, it's still pretty long. It's got some length to it.
It's still pretty long. It's still like,
It's cleaned up.
It's just cleaned up. The issue, though, is with no product, my hair either looks like I belong in the 90s or a modern-day lesbian. And I can't really figure out which one.
I'd go with the modern day.
So if it weren't for my mustache, I would have a line out the door of women with the wrong intentions. My wife says I look like the guy from Boy Meets World, the best friend, because sometimes my hair will part in the middle and I'll have that 90s haircut. But thankfully, this hat provided by Alt can cover that up when I'm not wearing any product.
We got to redo the intro, by the way.
Why is that?
We're officially the #1 Valorant podcast going forward, aren't we?
I don't see anyone else.
That we should change the bio at the very least.
I don't see anyone else. We we've gotten suggestions a lot of time that we should just split the show up into multiple podcasts on each esport. So there's multiple reasons why we don't do that. A, because we want to do the show for something that we would listen to. And single esports podcasts, although serve a purpose, they bore me out pretty quick. Because let's be real. I'm not going to stay into a game as much as I always do, right? Like, as gamers, we all have ADD, and that stays the same way with what esports I'm into. Now, Counter-Strike stands the test of time. That's always going to be our baby. That's, like we've always said, that's our NFL of the show. But, sometimes you just got to move on from certain games. And
the problem is there's only a couple of key staple games, right? And we cover Counter-Strike, but we don't necessarily cover, if you notice, every major esport like League of Legends, Dota. We don't really dive into the MOBAs a ton.
We'll touch on the big events, right? We follow enough to be dangerous, but I couldn't because I mean, look at Overwatch. Like if we were a dedicated Overwatch League podcast, I would have killed myself during the double shield meta days.
This would have ended like around episode 50.
Like if I had to,
we might have made it one full year
to act like I was interested in a double shield or goats. It would have been rough.
It would have been.
It would have been rough. So that is why. I don't even know how we got on that topic, but anyway, modern day lesbian. That's my haircut.
Looks good.
And that's actually what I went in. She was like, "What do you want?" And I said, "Give me the modern day lesbian." And she said, "Say no more." I got you, fam.
I got you.
I got you. Update from one of our stories last week. And this isn't really a yikes, but I just wanted to bring it up, and it wasn't really e-news, so I'm just going to throw it out here. Did you see the release of 100 Thieves number line? Like, did you watch it on Twitter? It was nuts.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. The amount of people that were standing outside talking about the actual...
Thousands of people standing in line down the street in California.
But that's not surprising, I don't think. Like, you want to get in. It's the first day that they're opening the store. 100 Thieves is a well-respected brand. This particular merchandise line, enough said, it's there.
They said people were camping out, though, like overnight.
It's like these are all limited lines that they release, right? And then there's also a limited edition shirt that was only available in stores, right? They also were going to have all the streamers there. Nade Shot was there. So like a lot of reason to like go and attend the event still.
See, I think where they screwed up, though, is of course people had to stay overnight so they could get it done because the average age of a 100 Thieves fan is like, what, 14? So they had to go to school. Hear me out. I think there's an opportunity where we could make merch and target the one demographic people aren't. Babies. Think about it. They're up all night anyways. They can camp out. They don't have school, so they can be there. Not only will they camp out, but they'll be there all day. And it's a 2-for-1 because you think a baby is going to drive out? No. Who do they need? A parent. Stay-at-home mom. Maybe a hottie. Geez. You have a kid? So do I. We have so much in common. Would you like to hang out sometime? You're married? So am I. 2 things in common. What's your number? So I'm just saying. Throwing it out
you
there.
got to think about it, Tim. Babies grow pretty quick.
That's the thing. You implant it with these kids that you think that this is a cool brand, and then they will just grow up with it.
Yeah.
One day we'll have a president that thought Fortnite was a fun game. Think about that. One day a president is going to be like, man, you remember that Fortnite game? It was so fun. And then I'll be like, I'm voting for the other guy because you're an
Definitely
idiot.
not going to be one of the next 2.
Boy, what if Bernie Sanders just dropped a Fortnite bomb on you?
You think Joe's over there playing a little Fortnite?
He might.
Doing like quick 90s?
He might. You think they're a controller user? They're definitely controllers. Definitely controllers.
Bernie, I could see potentially having some raw skill here.
You think?
Like there's an opportunity there with Bernie.
See, I don't think Bernie. I think Biden would have the more potential because hear me out. Bernie lost last year, or not last year, but last election. He lost in the race. So he was hungry. He had to hustle to get back here. Biden was the VP for 4 years, 8 years. They don't do anything.
You think he's just been like grinding?
Just gaming. That's what I would do if I was a VP. I'd be like, what do you want? I'm a VP. I'm here in case you die. I'll kiss some babies and I'll shake some hands. But other than that, don't bother me.
I think they should do like a 1v1. That'd be better than some of the debates we've seen.
What? Again, one day you will have a one-on-one on Twitch with presidential candidates for Fortnite or something. I promise.
They'll have their own Twitch stream.
Yeah, for sure. And then maybe it will throw into a Yikes of the Week because it will be super cringy and they'll probably pretend that they're hip and cool, but by then everyone would have moved on to Fortnite. So speaking of Yikes of the Week, we had 2 major events happen. And actually one was last week, but we forgot to add it. So of course we got to get to them because it was just too juicy to hold on to. I don't think we need to label which one is whose and whatnot. But let's just get to all three of them. How about that?
I love it. There was too much hair to wait. There
Let's
really
get to
was.
two.
This
Let's
was,
get to the
easy.
first two, and then we'll save the third one for Monday. We don't need to overshoot our shot here. We don't know what kind of content we'll have.
Content's hard, dude. This is getting tough. Okay, this was the easiest one. I called Tim immediately after this happened, and I was like, he had posted we have a little news section that we send news back and forth and keep up to date. Tim sends me a link to a picture of an Instagram post by Censor, or so he thought. And this is Censor from the New York Subliners, Call of Duty player. And he sends this to me and he's like, oh, wow, look, he's like calling out all the players on his team, you know? I called him immediately. This is not Censor that posted this. This is Papa Censor that posted this. And Tim, as a future father, you know, as somebody who's about to be like, I'm going to be in the bunker with this guy, you know? Like, I don't know if this is the approach.
I'm a current father.
Is this the approach you should be taking?
No, definitely not. There's a line of being a supportive father and just an overbearing one. So what it was is, again, I thought this was Censor because I've heard some rumblings that like the New York Subliners, the roster is kind of shaky, right? A little bit of a friend zone here and there, and that's like some people are getting out of the circle of trust, if you will. So I thought it was Censor pretty much writing his ticket out of there and saying like, all right, this is a team of friends. And do you have it in front of you what the dad said about each player?
I do. So this was I'm going to just read his post because it's too good. So from Papa Censor, it goes, New York Subliners equals the friends team. NYSL breakdown. At accuracy. Tyrant. Loser.
So he tagged them too.
Oh, he tagged them. This is at accuracy.
You know what? I'll give him credit. If you're gonna say it, tag him.
Didn't hesitate to call them out, like some people we know. So at accuracy, tyrant, loser, bad leader. At temp, hothead, bad team player. At attach, lackey, Lamar ass kisser. At Zuma, champ, nice guy, needs spine. At zero, poor team choice, champ. At happy, clearly ill prepared. And then Censor, 4-time champ, proven leader, motivator, clear leader, New York solution. It's as plain as the nose on your face. That's gold.
From a dad.
From a dad.
Who's the guy is still on the player, and then Censor had to come out and do a video like damage control, being like, yo, sorry, that was my dad.
That's like just immature. Like, I mean, that's honestly, you should never have to like explain. That's the opposite. You don't explain that to your parent.
That's a lot to type out, and that's on the phone too. Because Instagram you can't do on the computer, right? That's all got to be on like a phone.
Yeah, that's all on his phone.
So that's a lot of typing. There's a lot of time between the first word and the last word for a dad to be like, hold up. Maybe I shouldn't be throwing my son in the fire here. Like, he still has to go work with these guys. Maybe I shouldn't completely destroy any type of trust that they have with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way he called him out also, like bad leader, loser, bad team player, kiss ass, needs spine, poor team choice. Like it's pretty like it's pretty damning to like say that. And that definitely makes it an awkward situation for Censor. Like, I can't imagine what he's thinking or feeling being on that team, being around those guys. Like, there's got to be, whether you want to believe it or not, there's got to be some sort of rift that's caused from this, right? Even if you were considering putting him in the lineup. But it's an awkward situation for a player that's not considered to be good, like very good anymore in the sense of like a top player. He was mocked for being picked up by subliners, by people like Nameless and other, figureheads in the scene. So definitely a tough look, definitely worthy of a yikes. And I'm just really did not want to hold on to it till Monday.
No, that's insane. That is absolutely insane and absolutely beautiful that a dad would come out and talk that much shit about his son's team. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. The other yikes of the week, which actually happened last week, we just overlooked it. This was for, what was it? EA, was it FIFA?
FIFA.
Yeah,
FIFA.
so FIFA had a tournament, and in short, there were server issues, and the two competitors, I don't even know their names, it doesn't matter, could not connect to each other. Like, there was a clear server bug. It wasn't like one person's internet wasn't working or whatnot. Like, it was a bug in the game that was preventing them from connecting. Well, they have to do something with the match. They have to figure out a winner. So somehow they came up with the idea of, let's settle this through rock, paper, scissors.
Dude, come on. Like, is this even real? I can't even believe this is a real story.
Now,
They should have
EA
made them
has
go play
come out
real
and
soccer
said-
outside, like rent a field out. That would have been better.
Now, EA has come out and said, like, hey, this isn't, like, they shouldn't have done that. They should have,
No shit.
like there is an official thing in the rule book for, like, if you can't connect, like, hey, this, oh, they both would have forfeited is what it was. But still doesn't make sense. Like, hey, if you can't connect because of our servers, sorry about your luck, you both have to forfeit. That still doesn't really make sense to me.
What does that do in that situation?
I guess they'll figure it out. Maybe like just a bye week or a bye match for the next people up or whatnot. I don't know.
That's incredible that there wasn't a solution around this, or I mean, delay it if you have to, I guess, at that point. Like, I don't know. I mean, there has to be shit. Honestly, the best solution, Tim, would have been honestly a live shootout. You make them do a one-on-one, penalty shots, hold it like a real match, and you have that always ready for you, like in the back, ready to go now.
I mean, those FIFA pros are pretty, like, in shape.
How can
I've
you
seen
be
'em.
taken seriously by doing rock, paper, scissors?
I don't know. But again, I don't know how you got to that point. Like, if we were competing in a tournament and, like, that's how, like, the other team was like, hey, we're having issues connecting. You guys want to you want to do rock, paper, scissors? You want to figure this out? I'd be like, no. There's got to be contact an admin. There has to be a better way. Hell, at DreamHack Austin, we played in a fake Counter-Strike tournament for half a day before an admin finally came up to us and said, yeah, you guys are in an old tournament. We had to reset it earlier. It's like, oh, okay. It's like we didn't do rock, paper, scissors to catch up. We just went with it.
Unbelievable.
Unreal. Speaking of being in a tournament, I have some exciting show news for everyone. This Saturday at 11 a.m. our time? Central? Is that correct? So 12
That is
noon?
correct.
Should probably figure out the time zones to make sure, but I think it's 11 o'clock our time. We, the Center Ring, will be competing in a Counter-Strike tournament of our own through Mount Phenom. Of course, this is ran by Amuka, friends of the show here. So the cool part about this, though, is that it's me and Anuj. We're playing with some listeners and some buddies, but you can also be a part of this tournament and also compete alongside or against us. So there's a chance that we could be ruining some listeners' dreams as we just dominate, as we run the
always
table.
willing to do that.
As we
Always willing to do that.
run the
We
table.
have to prove ourselves, Tim.
Of course. So Mount Phenom, you can go to mountphenom.com for more information, but this is a qualifier tournament for a later event that will have a $10,000 prize pool. Each qualifier, though, so this Saturday, will have a $1,000 prize pool. It does cost $125 for a team to register, but we won't leave you hanging because we do have a promo code. If you use the promo code TCR at sign up, you will then have 10% off for your team registration. So there you go. You get 10% off with the code TCR, mountphenom.com. You'll register your team. You can compete. You could possibly win money. Maybe this is where your pro career starts. I don't know. You never know how these things work out. And if not, have some fun playing some organized Counter-Strike.
Are you ready for this?
No, I'm not. So we don't play that very often anymore, like anything. Yesterday, we play like once a week, maybe on the weekends. So yesterday I had some downtime. I went on to go play just some DMs and, get the muscle memory back. my game runs like ass though. Like, I don't know what it is with every Counter-Strike patch. I feel like my game just is slowly dwindling down to nothing.
I don't think you're alone there, though. I've seen quite a few tweets come out from. I think Nothing just tweeted something out earlier that it feels incredibly choppy right now after the update. So
yeah, it's like
I don't think you're alone there.
My frames are dropping. Sometimes they're not even dropping, and I'm still just feeling a stutter. So it's gonna throw off my game. It's really But I'm a warrior.
I got a second PC right here.
I'm a player. That's what I do. Is I'm gonna show up. Maybe I should go over to your house. Bring the laptop. Play some. My gaming laptop's better than my desktop, so maybe.
That is true.
But yeah, so I believe this tournament will be streamed.
It is.
Okay.
It's on Mount Phenom's Twitch page, so I think it's just Mount Phenom is the name of the Twitch page.
Yeah, and I know the website's mountphenom.com, so you can check it out there. So I don't know if every match is being streamed, so I don't know if ours will be, but I do know Anuj will be streaming on our Twitch, so twitch.tv/thecentering. You can at least check out his perspective and hear our comms, which I'm sure will ensue me raging in the background because I'm not what I was once upon a time in Counter-Strike, and it's frustrating, but that's okay. We live on. We're trying to find some hard carries to play with us to hopefully carries. I just want one W. Give me one win, and I think I'll be okay.
And look, Tim, I've been practicing my calls. Hear me out. Rush B.
Okay. Unbelievable.
Go A.
You're like a pro.
Done.
Smoke
throw
jungle.
Smokes.
Don't know jungle. Don't care. Throw it.
Throw them. It's going to land somewhere. It's going to be close.
Yeah, Sam, with these open tournaments, you just don't know who you're going to get, right? Like, we're playing in it, but again, we don't really play that often. So, like, we're going to get... It's like DreamHack, right? So at DreamHack, you play these open tournaments that anyone can join. In your head, everyone is like you, right? Everyone is just some average Joe who plays in it. And then you realize, though, these are the tournaments that, like, some low tier teams, like, this is how they get their start, is they just grind on these little tournaments and make a quick buck.
Imagine the team that sees they're up against an invited team, Tim. Okay?
Yeah, we are invited. That is true. So we can hang our heads on that one. So, but again, so that's mountphenom.com. Go check them out. If you want to register a team, I think registration is pretty much open until the start of the tournament. You can use the code TCR and get 10% off for your team's registration. So do the math, $125 minus 10%. Worth it.
And they're using Faceit servers, so that's a plus.
Yeah, they're using Faceit, so we know those work. All right, so there's that. All right, let's get on to the juice of the episode, though.
Yep.
The moment everyone's waiting for. It's when we're pulling the switch. We're official Valorant podcast going here on forward. You'll never hear about Counter-Strike again.
50% listener spike today. Guaranteed.
Unreal turnout here. So Riot did their big reveal. They stayed true it. Monday, March 2nd, they pretty much dropped everything that people were wondering about the game. So I'll have you go through some of this stuff, Anuj. But before we get to that, Valorant, of course, for those who might not know, is Project A. So obviously you've heard us talk a lot about Project A. We've had Rambo on the show talk about Project A. It's everywhere. So obviously they renamed it to Valorant. Still don't like the name. I still like Project A more, but
again, Project A feels good coming out.
Yeah, it feels good. I think I'll still call it Project A.
Yeah,
they announced this way early though. Like I woke up Monday, and everything was already like out there.
Oh yeah, this had to have been before like 5 a.m. Central.
Like they weren't like when they said March 2nd, I was expecting like to wait all day to see this. No, they dropped this early. They wanted to get that worldwide audience. This was not catered to anyone in particular.
As it shouldn't be. I mean, I think that
I think it kind of tells you their mindset.
Yeah. They have everybody pretty captured right now, right? Now, whether you're for, against, in between, like everybody's kind of paying attention to what's happening here, including, I'm pretty sure, CSGO, because we've seen updates come out recently that have showed that they know something's lurking, right? Now, that's something, obviously, being Valorant, we got a ton of information, Tim. Like, we really got a lot of stuff, and I think we should just kind of jump in because this could end up going on too long here. But we'll just give you some of the highlights of what we learned across the board from what we're getting at launch. We could talk about some characters in game modes, like basic just things that they have, abilities and the sorts of stuff, and then just the overall mechanics and feel of the game from people's impressions that have played it.
Meh.
We did hours.
You
and
just mentioned
hours of
characters and
YouTube,
abilities, and I blacked out.
Tim. I'm gonna be selling Tim on this throughout the show as well.
This
So
game
at
sucks.
launch, right off the bat, Tim, tell me, how does this sound? Where does this sound familiar? From what fan base? We are getting 128 tick servers.
If you listen, you can hear the Call of Duty and Counter-Strike fan base just all scream out in anger.
The Call of Duty fan base just passed out. They didn't realize numbers went beyond 20. So
20? I don't even think it's. I think their private servers
it's
are
12.
lower. Is it 12,
It's like
right?
12. Yeah, it's like 12.
Call of Duty is the only game where a private server runs shittier than a normal server. I have never
Yeah.
heard of that. A private server runs worse, but Call of Duty managed to find it. No, 128 tick servers for everyone. That's amazing.
Awesome. And you ask, how are they going to do this? Because Valve has been telling us for years, Tim, for years, this is not possible.
You
Can't run
do
this
it.
on those potatoes. Like, if we did this, it would just mess up the game for too many users. It would be a worse experience for more users than it would be a good experience for some. And the way that they're doing this is there are servers located across the globe at launch. Like, pretty much, they said all major cities will have a good set of servers available. You'll be seeing pings under 35 milliseconds, even on like average computers. They said FPS wise, you'll easily be getting 60 FPS in this game without any issues, I think, of obtaining.
Well, they said like they want it to
144 plus.
be. I'm gonna butcher this quote, but they want it to be like where like a 5-year-old PC can run 60 FPS, and then like state of the art PC can run whatever. Like,
And I think it's even like the recommended settings was like an Intel HD 3000.
well, they're going
you know?
the Fortnite approach, right?
Yeah.
Where they are
the Counter-Strike approach.
Yeah, okay,
right?
yeah. Counter-Strike, right? That's a timeless game. You can pretty much run it on any PC.
Yeah.
They're going that route, which I think is the right way to do it. I do agree with Border, though, in our Twitch chat, saying that he's more excited for the servers than any of the gameplay. Like, that's what's blowing my mind. Like you said, we've been lied to for years that there's just no possible way to have public 128 tick servers. And here they are just BDPing it to everyone.
The first like 3 or 4 things we're going to touch on here, I feel like are all shots at Counter-Strike. Like, they're all directly saying, look, you said you weren't able to do this for your fan base, or you didn't want to do it, or you're too stubborn, you're not listening. We're giving you everything that you guys have wanted. Now, hopefully the gameplay matches up to like what we're seeing, at least as of the core, set of the foundation that they're building it on. I think is at least really good. Maybe that's the wording I'm looking for. But they're going to have a high-end custom-built cheat detection. There's going to be 2 separate cheat detections running simultaneously. One focused purely on like wall hacks, called their Fog of War system, and then there will be another one that'll be doing like just more of a general cheat detection that is constantly updating itself with various algorithms, and it'll instantly be banning cheaters like in game. You're not going to have to wait for this review or Overwatch session, and then from there, who knows where it goes before you're determined to be cheating. So this will just be an instantaneous ban.
So, and I do stand corrected because Depolar in chat mentions that they want a 8-year-old graphics card, like a 670 GTX, is supposed to run it with a decent CPU at 144 FPS.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was like something
Okay,
old,
so
like
it's even
8 or
more
10
insane
years.
than what I was
It is.
thinking.
Yeah, it's like really low-end systems potatoes are gonna be able to run this game fine, and you'll be able to play it competitively because you just don't need the graphics, just like you see again in similar to Counter-Strike. 12 playable characters at launch. You will be locking in to a character for the duration of the game. So you're not switching characters throughout the game. Once you pick one, that is your character for the game. 4 maps confirmed for release, Tim. Now, number sounds a little low, honestly.
That does
just
sound pretty
thinking the
whack.
Games, like, it's been in production for 6 years. You would hope they would have some more, and that's I know there's only 4 confirmed. Doesn't mean that that's a maximum of 4. So we know of 4 maps that are currently going to be playable, and one of them, according to an interview with Henry G, which was on DNP this week, he mentioned that one of the maps is a Tuscan remake. And for those of you in the Counter Strike world, that's again a map that's been, you know, people have begged Counter Strike to find a way to buy this map off of the map creator, and they've shown no interest in doing so. Um, he said one of the maps is like a direct relation to that map, even in the style and just everything about it. So that's again pretty exciting to see.
I'm
Tim, the
not
next one.
in love with characters. We all know this. I am anti-characters. I don't like characters and I don't like abilities. I will.
Let's get into them. I want you to save your hate, save it, bottle it up. We're gonna bring that out in the next part.
All right.
Because there's gonna be plenty of there for you to judge, and then I want to kind of see where you take it. One of the other things that's important to note is we're going to have an extensive matchmaking system, Tim, and ranking system similar to what we see in League of Legends. And so it'll be a really fun opportunity to see where you truly rank against your peers that you're playing with and all that, and can get top 100, top 500, top 1,000, just to kind of know where you actually fall. And I think that's huge because Counter-Strike has not updated their ranking system since launch. I mean, that's back in 2014, 2015. We haven't seen an update to the ranking system. We haven't seen really like a
they
rank
did like that
reset.
major.
They did the D rank,
major
but
one.
that was more like adjusting people for where they thought they were versus giving everybody kind of like, hey, here's a clean slate. Let's go through seasons. See where you actually progress, give you a reason to continue playing. That's one of the biggest things that I think we will honestly see that in Counter-Strike because of what Valorant's doing, because of what Riot's doing. I think we do see that come into Counter-Strike at some point. And those were kind of the big things. One of the other things that we obviously will not really dive into, but the weapon shop, the weapon skin shop, there's no loot boxes in the game. You'll just be purchasing the skin that you want for your game. So obviously very different than Counter-Strike with the whole global market economy. That's one of the biggest parts of Counter-Strike. This will just be you're giving money directly to Riot for the skin that you want. There won't be character skins at launch, just gun skins, but no loot boxes. I think that's fantastic. If there's a skin I want, I can actually go buy that skin. So I think that's a better way to do it than me opening a box and getting a Sand Dune P90 for the 50th time,
Well, and I think anyone with a brain has learned at this point, you don't open loot boxes in Counter-Strike. I would rather just spend $30 on a skin that I want than open $15 worth of boxes and maybe not get it.
You could potentially be getting like 20 cents back on return in some cases,
Yeah. Just buy your skin. So, I mean, it's cool. Those are all very novel ideas. Very little to do with gameplay, though.
But again, I think those are big foundation pieces. Those are things that if your game is built on that to start with, those are, again, imagine if Counter-Strike came out with an update tomorrow. Just think of the reaction from the community. If tomorrow morning we woke up and Counter-Strike said, hey, we're going to a 128K matchmaking system. We're implementing, a new state-of-the-art anti-cheat system. Oh, and by the way, we now have an updated ranking system where you can progress on a quarterly basis or whatever it may be. If that came out in an update tomorrow, people would lose.
Well, and I can tell you this,
mind.
right? Is so even when I go unranked, right? Because maybe I play Face It or I don't play matchmaking and I lose my rank. Playing those 2 matches that you have to do is the biggest beating of my life, right?
Yeah.
But if they were like, hey, new season starts up, do your placements, I bet you I would get on to do those. Like I would want to see where my placement is this season or whatnot. So
and you would be into those games. You know, it's not to say like that we don't play to win now, but it's a little different when it's
and like I said, I think that's where Riot is doing a good job of. That's not only about, and I think they've learned, right? Is there are so many options out there now for people. It can't just be about the gameplay. Point in case Fortnite. That is a trash tier game when it comes to gameplay. It's awful. And I'm going to die on that hill that Fortnite is not a good fundamental game. But what got people interested? their creativity on how the storyline and the seasons and things like that, their skins, the market, right? Their missions and things like that to get you involved. And then, yeah, I understand that the building mechanic and people are good, whatever, right? But overall, like when it comes to the mechanical side of it, it's a wonky ass game.
Yeah.
But where Epic prevails
the
on
bloom,
anyone.
The bloom is the biggest issue that we don't like from the shooting aspect in that
Right.
game, right? Nobody likes like random bloom. It doesn't make for the most competitive environment. But that's why that game, I mean, again, we haven't seen Fortnite be competitive since the World Cup. So there's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't seem like
you don't have the hardcore competitors playing Fortnite.
It doesn't seem like that's their primary focus.
Yeah.
Where with Valorant and Riot, we see this being like, I mean, it's all almost based off of what they want the esport to look like for this game.
Yeah.
They're setting the groundwork now to make people interested in the game, to want to compete. You know where you're at. You can play to be the best. And that stuff's important. So I'm excited for all the foundational pieces that they're laying out.
I want to say one thing here. So, because I'm getting painted with this brush that I'm already anti-Valorant and I'm anti-Riot. I am not anti-anything. I welcome anything with an open arm. I'm just quick to judge. But that doesn't mean I'm a hater. Like our listener, how do you say his name? The one who emailed us. Kieran?
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to say it.
So.
Captive, I think, is his actual like gamer tag. So Captive, we'll call him. Like he said, he was like, hey, you got to convince Tim to turn around on Riot. And I read that and I'm like, well, I never said I was against Riot. I have nothing against Riot, right? I mean, there's sexual assault cases and everything, sure. But apart from that, apart from sexual
outside
assault,
of that,
I like Riot. And maybe if they throw an invitation to Valorant, I can look past the sexual assault. Get me in that beta, I see no sexual assault. But apart from that, I think that they say what you want about how they run their subreddits and how they really dictate what is said about them, right? From outlets. Because I know that's what a lot of journalists have beef with Riot. Take all that aside, you cannot tell me they don't put 110% into League of Legends.
Yeah, see, the problem is all those things you mentioned, other than take the sexual assault, I'm talking about the issues with the journalists and all that, right? And how they treat their subreddit mod, like, people say that the mods are basically working for Riot. That stuff doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't care about that stuff. I'm not on Reddit a ton. I, occasionally just kind of scroll through or whatever. Again, how they treat their relationship with certain journalists, like it doesn't affect me. Now it's like, I get it. Like maybe if it did, it would be a bigger issue, but it doesn't. So like, I'm worried about the game, right? Is the game going to be good? And you're right. They put 110% into League with updates bi-weekly, right? Look at the number of characters, how they treat their major events. And so those are the things that we look at. And again, I hope we see that same type of care and respect for this. There's no reason that we wouldn't. And so with that being said, Tim, I want to jump into some of the character talk here, because this has kind of been the topic that has probably made people think you hate it the way you do. And
right.
That's probably in the character discussion part here. And so just a general like character and game modes, right? So just a game mode for people that don't know, it is a round-based game, search and destroy, whatever you want to call it, similar to Counter-Strike, Call of Duty search and destroy modes. Two bomb sites or 3. So that'll be a unique change, right? Up to 3 bomb sites on a map. But it's not all maps are 3, so half and half there. The bomb sites are called reactors and things of that sort. Best of 24. So again, kind of what we saw in old school Counter-Strike. So Counter-Strike back in the early days was not best of 30 the way it is now. I think it was best of 24, somewhere around there. I think it might have been best of 24. But it'll be best of 24 at launch. With the 1 minute and 40-second timer. Again, you can see it's almost like a carbon copy. A lot of these things are going to sound familiar to those of you that are interested in CSGO. A minute and 40-second timer with a 30-second pre-round / like buy.
When you say a minute 40-second timer, the rounds are a minute and 40 seconds?
Yeah, rounds are a minute 40.
Okay.
And Counter-Strike, I think, is what, 145? So right around the same
Man, they
thing
feel
there.
so much longer. You don't realize how much happens.
Yeah.
Like within
Yeah, how much
because you
goes on
plant
that
the
much time.
bomb. And yeah, it's
Yeah. And so what's going to be I'm glad you actually said that because with the 30-second pre-round timer, think of that like an Overwatch starting area. You can move around during that time period. You can buy weapons, trade weapons with your teammates again like you do in Counter-Strike during that time. Except these are not just like isolated to the back of the map. You can actually progress to a defensive point or an offensive, a choke point. And as soon as a round starts, you can have an engagement as early as like 5 seconds into the round. Doesn't mean you're always going to see that. You can play it
right.
passively, but you're able to position yourself within choke points that are going to allow you to engage immediately, basically, if you wanted to. So important to note that that'll be very different than what we see with Counter Strike, how you're stuck in spawn and then it takes you about 10 to 15 seconds to align yourself. You'll be ready to go right when the round starts. So that'll be an interesting mechanic. Each character, Tim, is going to have 4 abilities in this game that's broken down with basically a signature ability, which that is something that you will have every round. Okay, so for example, if y'all watch the gameplay trailer, and I really think they did a crappy job on this trailer because they tried to show so many abilities kind of being used
Bro,
simultaneously
it was a
that
cluster.
it looked very Overwatchish, and people were hating on it. That's where a lot of the hate came from. Was right after this reveal trailer. It's like, oh my gosh, look at the amount of abilities and the crap going on the screen. Like, what is this?
I
It
saw
doesn't
more,
seem like a
and I
shooter
even
first.
tweeted out. I was like, the next person who tries to tell me that this is gonna kill Counter Strike, I'm gonna fight him, because I watched that trailer and I was like, no, this is Overwatch and Paladins, like rip Paladins, and it's been nice knowing your Overwatch because that's what the trailer made it look. I saw more abilities than I saw shooting.
So people that have played the game talked about the trailer and they were said unfortunately they don't think Riot did a good job of presenting the game. What they basically showed was a mid-round engagement where what I mean by that is this is like round 6 or 7 now and people have built up their ultimate at that point and you saw ultimates and like signature abilities and utility all kind of being used at the same time, which they said when they were play testing the game, that's not how the game was really ever played. Your ultimate is something that you use basically once per half. If you have a ton of kills, you might be able to get it 2 times a half. But he said in general,
So
an ultimate.
this is what I'm thinking. All right, this is where my mind is at right now. Is I've only heard from ex like Counter-Strike pros, right? Those are the only opinions I've heard of from this game. And I wonder if they're like, well, the abilities didn't play that big a deal because that's just how their mindset works. Like they think utility and shoot first. They don't think, oh, let me use this ability. I would love to see it from like an Overwatch pros perspective where okay, did you like they might come at it with a different approach saying, "No, I played around my abilities and then I shot rather than
So
shoot first."
I'm trying to think who it was, and I'm not remembering now, unfortunately. But it was I think it was an Overwatch player, had mentioned that it was funny because they were there with Pasha Biceps, former Virtus Pro member, and Pasha played the game very different than he did. He said Pasha was really just looking to get gunfights, and he finished the game with 29 kills and top fragged on the map, where this other person, and again, I wish I had written this down, but I don't remember who it was, talked about how they were more like looking towards using utility in a different way, and they played more of a support role in the game where um, Pasha was going for just straight up,
Yeah.
I just wanted to fight you type thing. So you're right, like depending on who's playing. But I think that's, again, one thing that was also mentioned quite often is that this utility, the way we're talking about it, or these abilities are used like utility. So a lot of the abilities, for example, are to block out line of sight, use as a smoke, a flashbang. One is like a Molotov. That's like a player ability. He throws like a fireball out of his
Yeah.
hand, but it works as a Molotov does. And there's other um, similar abilities like that. They also have tripwires similar to Rainbow Six Siege, an airstrike ability similar to Apex. What you see with who's that
That
character?
chick.
Yeah,
Bro,
I'm
I don't
forgetting her
know.
name. Yeah, and so there are some abilities that they've taken from different games, but they've all mentioned again that I feel like this has been reiterated so much that I'm hoping this is the case, that these abilities don't affect the game the way that one resurrect ability does. But again, they said the resurrect ability was being used one time per half. Because you got it in the sixth or seventh round is when you first finally get it,
Yeah.
and it's not like you use it that round necessarily. You save it for a point in the match when you do need it, and so it's like that's used once per half. So again, I think it's a little overblown, but the abilities will play a big part in the game, but I think they'll play a part just as utility does in CS:GO with more of a twist. I mean, and it had to be
Yeah.
different enough to make it interesting, right?
Well, and I mean, I think Riot also knows their style and clientele. I mean, you go from a decade of League of Legends, that's where your fan base is at. They can't all of a sudden just flip the switch and go ultra realistic, right? So I always knew there was going to be some type of fantasy aspect to this, but and I'm not anti that. I just I hope that it's not just ability or utility spam. I hope there's more tactical way of doing it. And I'm also acknowledging that that's hard to show in a hype video, right? With all these cuts and music and oh, look at this. And
You want to show off so much. I think they showed off too much.
yeah.
Like you want to show people using different abilities and playing the game in a way that doesn't look like just a typical FPS. So you try to show all these abilities being used at once, and half of them are ultimates, which you really would not see consistently throughout a game.
Yeah.
And so things like that can I think alter people's opinions slightly, but that's more because of how they presented it, not so much of how I think it'll actually be played. But they've migrated things into the game, which I think are just nice subtle touches, like bunny hopping. Bunny hopping is in the game so if you play Apex or if you play Counter Strike, you're very well familiar with how that movement can affect the game and how you can position yourself and get to locations quicker. So I think that's fantastic. You run faster with the knife out. That's another thing that a lot of people would be accustomed to from different games. A recoil system to your weapons. Again, that's for us as people that were kind of born in this FPS era. That's a great thing to hear, right? Because
Yeah.
you know that you can, if you master it, you can truly be better than the next guy or girl. So those things to me were what's done right. The abilities is still in my mind also a little bit more of a wait and see. Like, did I like seeing all the green all over the screen? Like no, that's not what I would ideally want to see in my gameplay 24/7. But if they're one-off situational items, I don't think it's going to ruin it. But Tim, again, it looks like a carbon copy, dude. Like they really pulled a lot of things out of Counter-Strike. The buy menus, the economy system, win round loss bonus, trading weapons with teammates. Like they've added all these mechanics that we've loved from Counter-Strike and tried to migrate some mechanics from Rainbow Six and Overwatch and Apex that hopefully don't feel too overpowered. And so I think that's a unique combination for a company that has the ability to blow this up as big as they're
Right.
willing to do. So a lot there to like, in my opinion.
Yeah. Again, I'll be somewhat the devil's advocate here or the negative Nancy because there are some aspects like the fact that you're going to have characters, but you can't change that character. Like, I wonder if eventually they're going to have character bans or whatnot. Because, and again, this is me never playing the game, and I've seen the same thing that you've seen when it comes to news and everything there. Is like, I would really hate it if one character was a hard anti-character for someone else, and say, I picked them, then there's a dude on the other team that completely nullifies what I do, and now I'm stuck with this guy for 24 rounds knowing that I can still outgun people, I can still outshoot people, but my abilities aren't that useful because of what the other team picked, and now I'm stuck with it.
So they do have all the abilities listed already, and obviously we're not going to dive into that because that's just too much. But you can literally go through every character's abilities right now. And again, the abilities don't function in a way to it's like a hard counter. Like it's not like Overwatch where you have a couple people saving up abilities all to kind of pop them at one time. But
Right.
hey, if you have a Lucio and he's got to drop the beat, like it's a hard counter for everything. They said that there's not, and they referenced Lucio directly in one of their things, or like the Mercy 5-man res when that was going on and all that. Like they said they don't really have abilities that
Just completely shut something down.
exactly. It's like they're really utilities, abilities based on utility. So
Yeah.
they just don't have flashbangs, Molotovs, smoke grenades. Those are all incorporated into abilities. And like even the Hanzo arrow, they said that that arrow can be shot out of midair. And so it can blow up before it even hits. And then when it does hit, it's not an exact point of where you are. It like captures like an image of where you were at. So it's not even like 101 to 1 accurate of you sitting there. So it sounds very it sounds like they thought it through. Obviously it doesn't sound like
Like I've said before, I'm going to try it, and I'm sure I will enjoy it because again, I've loved Overwatch for the 3 or however long it's been out, right? 3 years. I love Counter-Strike, so if you put them together, I don't see a reason why people shouldn't love the game other than if the abilities, I think, outweigh the gun mechanics. Because like the reason abilities work in Overwatch is because you kind of go in and concede the fact that, okay, this is not a shoot and run type of game. Like I cannot raw aim my way out of this. But with this, it's like my brain is going to tell me I should be able to. And if someone heals up in the middle of a fight or something, that is what will trigger me. But like I said, I think I agree. I think Riot has thought this through. I'm just being a pessimistic right now because I will play the game. And if it's going to be free to play, and I think all of our listeners and all of our buddies are getting on, look, I am going on 30 with a kid. I can't be picky, Anuj, on what games I play. I'm just going to have to follow the crowd at this point in my life.
I'll tell you the one thing I know you're going to love because you've complained about this in Overwatch, and that is the one shot or play of the game potential. So having that in a game alone, I think makes for a really fun, at least the ability to have moments
a headshot
of
should
a lot
be a
of fun,
headshot.
right? And so, one shot headshot ability is there for several weapons. They showed the guns. There was like a proper deagle in the game. They have an M4 AK type replica.
Don't put a mobile shield in there.
Yeah, which they don't have. There is armor in the game, but armor is just an HP boost.
Right, okay, that's fine.
And so the one shot potential for me is big, and kind of where I want to take this because we compared this to Overwatch is I want to get your opinion on which game should be the most worried with the release of Valorant.
Are we only looking at Overwatch and Counter-Strike? Because obviously Paladins, but that's just because their player base is already the smallest, right?
Yeah, so let's call it as the core four, right? Like CS:GO, Overwatch, maybe lump battle royale games into there, and then Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six deserves to be in a lot of these conversations now.
Okay, yeah, it's a big enough game, right? They're big boys; they can be in these conversations. I don't think Rainbow Six has anything to worry about because that fan base is always. I mean, that's their niche, right?
Yeah,
it is.
It's a little too different. It's
because it's just that so tacticalness, right? Like even though you're watching a pro and they look like they're just gunning it, they're really not. Like it is so tactical on how you play Siege, so that's safe. I don't think you're going to see anything there. Free to play always scares me though. Like never underestimate a free to play game. I think we've learned that now, right? Before, you'd see a free to play game, and you'd be like, okay, which Korean made this, and you would laugh about it. But I think
which cash shop is going to ruin this game?
What Chinese data bank is stealing my stuff now? But I think Fortnite has completely changed the way that works, right? So for me personally, I think Overwatch would be the most worrisome here. I think because and Blizzard has already done so much within the last 6 months to try to mix up Overwatch and with the player hero bans and the pools, and now they have like the queues and all, like they've done so much to try and mix it up. So you can already.
Was it too much too late?
No, I don't think it was too much too late. I just don't think every game is Counter-Strike, right? Not every game can survive 20 years.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I do agree. Like, so I do think it's going to hurt Counter-Strike. Okay. Now, that's not saying it's going to kill Counter-Strike. Nothing is going to kill Counter-Strike. But if you really don't think it's going to take away numbers from Counter-Strike, you got to be kidding yourself. Like, people have been looking for a competitor for 10 years, and there hasn't been one. And the potential of one is right on the horizon with just enough similar mechanics to make somebody that's playing Counter-Strike casually interested in Valorant. And I think a lot of the casual players will switch over to Valorant because it's the new hot toy. Now, whether they stay there, that's to be
Right.
seen.
Yeah, I could see
But
the casual fan moving over for sure.
like, I'll tell you, somebody like myself, I play Counter Strike very casually now. Get into a couple of matches with my friends when they're on, and that's about it. I can see us probably at least for the foreseeable few months after the game comes out, of probably all of those one-off games where we have that hour and a half time, we would probably play Valorant at that point. And so I do think it'll have an effect on Counter-Strike from that standpoint. I do think Overwatch should be worried for different reasons though, because you're right, not every game has to stand the test of time. Not every game has to be, there's only going to be one most popular game, right? But there's enough similarities in this game to Overwatch, and I think it's what a lot of people were kind of hoping they would get with Overwatch when it came out. When you saw the thought of like the
Well, I
McCrees
mean,
and like,
okay. It is what you had though when Overwatch first came out, right? Overwatch when it first came out was so much more of a DPS game, right? And you still see, I mean, that's why the DPS queues are so long. Dr. Disrespect has started playing Overwatch now, which is amazing, by the way. But he's even said, like, why are these queues so long? The game's not dead, is it? And everyone's in the chat is like, no, you're playing DPS. Like, it's the same thing in WoW, right? If you're DPS, your raid queues are going to take the longest because there's 1,000 of you for every one tank or healer.
yeah,
So when your biggest player base is DPS and they're just wanting that kind of not realistic shooter, but they also want the headshots, well, that's Valorant, right? That is exactly what you're looking for, is you want to show your skills, but also not just be some cut dry shooter. There's enough spice in there to where you're like, okay, I can think outside the box on how to use these abilities, but I can also outgun you.
well, you still have that fantasy world, right? And like you have that fantasy aspect to it, which a lot of people enjoy to games. That's why you play a lot of games, is to kind of get engulfed in a world that's not overly realistic. And so I think that alone is enough to draw people over. But yeah, I think the DPS timers are going to be pretty low now in Overwatch once
I think a lot
Valorant
of
comes
those
out.
people are going to
You'll
switch
see
over.
you'll see it spike, I think, there for sure. But yeah, I think Overwatch should be worried to a certain extent. It's not going to kill Overwatch. That's not what's going to happen. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think it's another big game for the casual fans to go to. And I don't know how many casual fans are lingering around Overwatch right now. Maybe when Overwatch 2 comes out, that generates, a flood of people going back into it. But you don't want to do that well after Valorant's already established and has proven to be hopefully a great game at that point. So I think Valorant will create ripples across the scene.
Yeah. It's been a while
I
too
think,
since we've had, well, shoot, it might be Overwatch, the last new game that we have like a contender for, right, in esports.
yeah, I mean, you have like Apex if you want to count. The BR games to me,
That's all one
unfortunately, Tim, are
category
like,
though.
yeah, like, well, and I don't count them as much of an esport. Like, it's just not like overly feasible to do like BRs in
I mean,
esport.
we've
It's
just
just
seen it, right? It's always a neat idea. It just doesn't play out the way it
that
works,
well.
right?
Yeah, so it has. I mean, Overwatch. I can't even think of what was before that. Honestly, that entered in at least this type of genre for an FPS.
Well, that's what I'm
There
saying. Though.
hasn't
For an
been a lot of
FPS.
competitors to Counter
And I'm talking like a fresh game, right? Not like, oh, well, there was a new Call of Duty's a franchise, Rainbow's a franchise. I'm talking like fresh game, right?
a new
Fresh
IP
design. Yep.
that's coming out to like contend, and this is going to do that. I think I do think Counter Strike developers should be on watch. I think that they should definitely be looking at ways to improve the game pre-Valorant coming out. Give people a reason to stay in your game because I want to see Counter-Strike more than anybody else. I want to see it stay the number one game. It's the game I've loved the most since I've grown up. For the last 20 years, I've been enjoying Counter-Strike. So I would never want it to go away, and I want it to remain king. I enjoy it that way. I am fearful though that they just won't do anything to combat this, and that worries me as a Counter-Strike fan. Is like, what is it going to take for them to kick it into gear and give us a product that's worthy of being the number one esport? They haven't done so.
Yeah, I mean, so you think it's kind of just number one because it's there? Like, there's just not for that.
Well, it's
for
great.
that
The game
target.
itself is like the base game. The core mechanics of the game are just incredible, right? Like we talk about the tactical gameplay, the one shot potential, like the weapon system, the economy. Like there's so much to the game that you love. It's just that's there really for like the true hardcore competitive individual, where like the people like us that are, although hyper competitive, like it's only fun for me if I'm getting to play in some sort of what feels like a meaningful game, right?
Yeah.
Because even competitive, you don't know if you're playing against a hacker. You don't know how many games you need to win to rank up or de-rank for that matter. You never really understand the ranking system, and there's two ranks, like your player rank and then you're also your competitive rank. Like none of it just makes sense in Counter-Strike, the way that they've set up the system internally. There's no need for me to have to pay $10 to $12 a month to use Faceit or ESEA to get a proper competitive experience. It's ridiculous that we're still doing that in 2020. So for me, I just feel like Counter-Strike really needs to get their crap together because this game's coming. It's gonna take a lot of players. A lot of people are gonna give it a shot. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's gonna affect the numbers for the game early on. Just like Apex had, what, 20 million people, unique people
Well, I
like log
think, yeah. I
on.
mean, when it launches, it's gonna be the number one game for sure.
If it's a good game, unlike Apex had a ton of issues that kind of stumbled them across the way, slow updates, no new maps, no new characters for so long, no season pass, all of that stuff drove the hype down for Apex after like a 3-month period.
Yeah.
All it's going to take is one game to be really good, and guess what? They're going to keep that player base.
See, I think the difference is Riot. Right? EA did not think Apex was going to be what it was. Riot, I would hope they know, like, this is going to be a big game. So get your roadmap out there now. Tell people, hey, these are the characters that we're designing. This is the release schedule or something along those lines. This is going to be the seasons. So that way, like, we know what we're
Treat
playing
it like you do
for.
League of Legends. League of Legends is an update every 2 weeks. You get developer updates every 2 weeks from them. Do not see why you wouldn't just treat this the same way to keep your audience engaged. It's done you wonders. You technically have the number one esport. As much as we want to say Counter-Strike is king, League of Legends, I mean, that's a monster.
Yeah.
Okay, so like they are really the top dogs in the global perspective, and so they have the ability to do that here, and it's going to be crazy. I'm very excited for the potential that this game brings, because I would love to see more come into esports, and if it makes other games do more, that's a great thing. And when was the last time, Tim, we had people from all genres, from MOBAs to Overwatch, whatever genre that exactly falls in, to true FPSers, all really excited about the same game coming out. Generally it's dictated just to one scene, but I guarantee you people that are playing League of Legends will try this game for sure. Like, it doesn't mean if you play a MOBA, you're a bad FPS player. There just might not be an FPS game that fits your appetite. Well, guess what? For all you League of Legends guys that love MOBAs, Dota people that love that style, this is a game that's brought to you by these guys. So they're also going to try it, which is going to increase like a crazy rush. Like what we saw for Apex on that opening day and how crazy it got over the following weeks, I still think will be nothing in comparison to what we see in the first few weeks of the launch of this game.
Did you see the tweet from Fnatic CEO?
No.
So he tweeted out to Riot and Valorant saying, please keep out blood and gore from the game. And like, he wasn't joking. He was like, we need, like, for in the FPS side of it, right, is like, we need that game that can be globally recognized. And for those who don't know, the Asian markets, I think especially in China, I could be talking on my ass.
No, you're not, because CS:GO does not have blood in China.
Okay,
Perfect.
So there you
world
go.
Release
Is like he's like, just do not have the blood, do not have the gore, and then that way across the world we're all playing the same game. They can advertise it. Advertisers can jump on board knowing that, hey, this isn't going to look bad to anyone. There's no way anyone could twist this. I think the fact that they're calling bomb sites reactors and bomb spikes, right? That's kind of a step in the right direction. I know that
you're not counter-terrorists and terrorists.
Exactly. And Counter-Strike, Anders has always been on this. And I've even said this. I said this way, like, early on, right?
We said this, yeah, this has been said like 100 episodes ago.
Yes,
if you look back.
like way before Anders has brought it up to the table. Is, do you think that we should just ditch that and call it offense and defense for the sake of sponsors? Now, I'm not saying I'm some like boomer out here that's offended by this. I don't give a shit. But I give a shit about what sponsors think and what big money thinks. And if big money is saying your game's too violent, well, then I'm going up to them saying, well, what can I do to make it not violent enough, right? Because obviously you don't want to get a headshot.
For one, don't call them terrorists in a world where that is like the focus of every major news outlet over the last 20 years. Like that would be a good
and
step
I don't
in the
need
right
it
direction.
completely like G-rated, right? I don't want to.
But do you care if there's blood? Like, I mean, they could have something else gush out for all I care. It could be an ooze or something. It wouldn't matter to me, Like,
I don't really
would I prefer blood to give the realism? Yeah. I would like to see something just to know that you're like, maybe there's a different hit marker that you're getting or something. But that's kind of how you identify hits a lot of the times in Counter-Strike, is when you see the
blood,
the splatter. But I'm okay with it not being there and substituting it for something else. That,
yeah, like some people were like, oh, that's just you being a boomer and you're trying to change games. And I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know. It's never been a selling point, and it's also for me not been a not selling point. It's just, I got what he was saying, right? If you're trying to really make this a global appealing game to sponsors right off the bat, I mean, well, look at Fortnite, right? That's a good one, where you had the World Cup, the most viewed esport event as far as the massive are concerned, and I don't remember seeing an article about how, oh, this is violent and people are shooting people. And that's because Fortnite in general does not look like a violent game. They don't have blood gushing out. You're not shooting off people's heads.
They don't shoot. Just build, bro.
They just build. So, I got what he was saying. He got a lot of backlash for it, but I'm telling you, Mr. CEO Fanatic, I got what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have a huge preference there.
I don't care.
If it's not
it's
there,
not going to make or break how I feel. I'm not going to be like, there's no blood. Why would I play this game? I need blood.
A lot of games give you the option to turn it off nowadays, like you can turn gore and all that down. So Tim, now it just comes to like, we got to pick our mains before the game comes out, before we've seen gameplay of every character. Like, we need
who
to
has
have
a
our
mustache?
mains.
Does any of them have a mustache?
Yeah, Carpet Rider.
All right. I will play him.
Got some cool looking characters here. Everybody's the same hitbox size too, by the way.
That's good. That's what you like to see.
None of this like Gibraltar crap that you deal with in Apex or Pathfinder issues. So it's also a smart move.
I like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I know I'm critical on it, but that's just because I'm just that way. I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a game that we can all play. Riot, if you're listening, let's get the #1 esports podcast in the beta. I think that's only fair. And if you could have it out by DreamHack Dallas Memorial Day weekend, that would be ideal.
You know what? I was thinking about that the other day. I feel like we are 100% going to have the beta by then, like a public beta by then. Because if it's a summer 2020 release, that's between May and August.
Now, you know me, I don't read things past the headline. Is that for the beta release or for the game release?
No, that's for the game release.
Damn.
Yeah.
I thought that was just for the beta.
No, that's for the game release. So the game release is summer 2020. They didn't give it a specific date.
All
But
right,
we can
so
assume
gotta
again
have the beta by
June, July, August. So a public beta should be out by the time we're at DreamHack. I would be
game
shocked.
release.
And again, that's May 22nd. So right, if you're listening, yeah, public beta by then would be fantastic. If it's a private one, I'm fine with it. Just make sure we're in.
Who's the first org you think buys in?
You know what? You're gonna see a flood. I think, you're gonna see a group like Sentinels or something. I think
Yeah.
that's like mid tier trying to lock in a team right away. But the big orgs will follow suit very quickly, especially when Riot's gonna give preferential treatment probably to those who own like roster spots in League of Legends. I mean, I'm really curious to see how they set up their esports scene. I think it's if they start off with some sort of proper league system right off the bat, with that ways for advancement or other teams to get in. I don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do to start off. So I do think we'll see a ton of teams create teams well before the game is released. So you kind of see that as a trend now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I like playing the game of what pros are going to make the switch. We said, kind of been confirmed, but Brax, aka Swag from Counter-Strike, is leaving, obviously, to go play that, probably with Complexity.
FNS, JDM, Cutler,
All CLG roster.
All CLG will be there.
I think AKM from Overwatch is going to make the switch.
Yeah, I think you'll see a handful of Overwatch
the way
pros
he's
make the
tweeting
switch.
about it is like he's really excited for it.
Taimu made a long video too.
Yep.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me.
He'd be a good one to switch. Any DPS player that has gotten the shaft from how they treat DPS in Overwatch, maybe Jake can go over and they'll retire his number.
Look, if these guys are good, you're going to make you could potentially make the same money almost right off the bat nowadays. It's not like the game is going to be so big initially that it wouldn't surprise me if salaries are a little bit crazy for somebody that's talented in another game, right? So I think we'll see plenty of people give it a go at the very least, right? They will be testing the waters early. And if Riot, again, is like you said, if Riot lays out a plan and lets the public know, like, hey, this is how we're going to pursue esports. This is, how it's going to be set up. This is how our contenders or whatever, minor league is also going to be set up for people to advance through. Like, there'll be so much interest. Like, it's just the kind of the way it works. Any game that's touted as the next big esport is going to get a flood of people to try it. And then you kind of see who sticks around, who's really good. But I do think there'll be a handful of pros from other sports giving it a go.
Well, Anuj, I think that's enough for Valorant for now, but we'll definitely touch on this when more news breaks or even with the beta. Realistically, the next time we talk about this is probably when we get to actually see gameplay, like real gameplay. I want to watch someone play a match from start to finish. I want to get the feel.
Playtest was recently canceled for all the streamers and content creators due to the coronavirus, and so they're figuring out another solution. So I do think we'll get they're going to allow them to game capture, so we'll get to see a lot of skilled FPS players and people from different genres like get to play the game.
We'll try to get Rambo back on the show, talk about it. He could talk me off the ledge.
I would love to get Rambo back on because we do know he's already been invited to it again. So to get his perspective or just anybody else that's getting a chance to go out there, we'll do our best to bring somebody on for you guys.
Awesome. So if I was a betting man, I would say that Valorant will be a success. And if you are a betting man, you could use Thrive Fantasy for your daily fantasy sports betting app. You download Thrive from the App Store or Google Play or whatever the hell you use. Use the code TCR at sign up and you get an instant $10 match on your first $10 deposit. So that means you'll get $20 to bet with. That 20
We're just getting savings left and right, and right.
Look, you use the code TCR to sign up for the Counter-Strike tournament, and then you use the code TCR and you get $10 free. We're saving you like $15. Easy. And then
If we had a sub button, I know what you could do with it, but
our
can't
sub,
get that working.
yeah, that requires a sub button to work. So, there's that. But then again, Thrive Fantasy, code TCR at sign up. Nuge, let's get into some e-news. Because it was quite a busy few days, really, to get to. So in CS, Alex leaves Vitality, citing personal reasons and not wanting to travel as much.
That's huge. I mean, Haji is stepping in for them from, I believe, from LDLC. This is going to be a devastating blow to the team. This is going to be a tough because Alex was a very good in-game leader. On top of that, he was actually a good fragger as well. So you were getting really a great combination from him.
A team that was riding high too, top 10.
Yeah, struggled a little bit recently, but that this is really going to be tough. I think they're going to struggle, and they didn't want to go international with the 5th because it's so close to like the pro leagues, and having to change too much was not going to help. So Haji, for them, they felt was the best pickup, but it's not going to replace Alex. And I do think this is going to be a tough pill to swallow for them.
Alex was English, correct? He was the only non-French player, right? Do you think that had something to do with it?
No, I mean,
you don't think a struggling team that has all the same language speakers would the one guy who can't understand them feel left out and be like, I can see the writing on the wall, guys. I'm the odd man out. You guys can talk about baguettes and macaroons.
It's just tough to see him give that up because it's going to be hard to get on that type of roster immediately, right? Because you got to find a team that's doing well but feels like they need to replace an in-game leader, right? So it's just a very good situation to be walking away from.
You got FaZe. FaZe can always use an in-game leader.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams that we think could probably use an in-game leader, just who's willing to make that change as we're getting close to the major and the league play starting. Like, it's a tough thing to do. This would have been good to do during the player break where you had a month to play with another team.
Weird time to just walk away right now, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, what's this next story here?
So Shay, also known as Cheyenne Victorio, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. She's a retired CSGO player. She played 1.6. I believe she played up until Go was out. She was also the ex-girlfriend of Fur from MIBR and has done a lot of work with them. And now I think she's also dating the goalkeeper for like Atletico.
Okay.
She is facing I think she was sentenced possibly to 116 years sentence for embezzlement and basically scammed people out of money. When it came to them, I guess they were purchasing merch or something off of a site. They were purchasing stuff online from her. She did not deliver the goods. She is appealing it. She is claiming that it was her ex-husband, who is not Fur, was running this business, and she was just tied to it. But yeah, 116-year sentence possibly.
So let me look her up to see how interested I am in this story.
You'll be interested. And while you're looking that up,
very interested. I will follow this story closely and follow up with further details. Good for you, Fur. Got out of that one too in time. Overwatch, we discussed it a little bit last week. Like right when we were ending the show, they were going on the broadcast about the player bans. So we're looking at week 5 for the first time that they are doing a hero rotation for player bans. You have Reinhardt, McCree, Moira, and Widowmaker. Rest in peace to the DPS show. Kind of sucks. No May. And I know, so again, I could be lying here. The last time I looked up how they were doing this was based off of playtime. And I know McCree was getting a lot of playtime recently. I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me. But
2 of the best DPS players.
Yeah, like that does suck. Like people were just getting the hang of DPS again. And were we saying, oh man, the hero bans are going to be great because they'll ban a shield and then the DPS players could come back out from hiding and kind of shine a little more. And then what do? They ban the 2 most hyped DPS. Like that sucks.
Yeah,
That
that's
sucks.
like those are really crappy. I mean, everything they do just blows my mind. I really don't get it.
That's only
Like,
for a week. It is only for a week.
Yeah, but like so now the problem is on the next ban, you're not going to see Reinhardt and a Widowmaker banned at the same time, right? So now
Right.
that massive shield is going to come back out and take away some of that ability for a player like McCree or a player like Widow to make some of those really fancy plays. You know, I would have loved to see those bans happen at different times, so we could have seen a game to see what that looks like without one of the main shield players in there.
Yeah, but now this one you might get a Winston ban and a Widow activated, which would be huge because Winston's obviously a counter for Widow. So
Yeah.
you know, it's a wait and see, right? I guess
It's just
that's the
both
thing.
of them at the same time
Yes.
hurts a little
Both
bit
of
more.
them
If it
at the
was
same
one,
time kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But we'll wait and see. It, you know, it at least makes week 5 a little bit more interesting to watch, just to see for the first time. League of Legends, in today's Corona update, the LCK, we talked a little bit about it a couple weeks ago that they were postponing or they were trying to figure out what to do. Well, they're just straight up suspending play for now. It was supposed to start March 9th, correct?
Yeah, March 9th.
So they're just saying we got to figure out what's going to happen here with the virus. So stay hard to all of you in the LCK. In Call of Duty, the Dallas Empire announced that they have hired on Ram Bore for their coach. He's of course, and GM. He's of course old not Counter-Strike, Call of Duty player. He's been around the scene. He's a champion in that realm, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, good hire overall. G2 making roster changes, Tim, for the Rainbow Six team. I think people saw this coming. Obviously, they did get into the playoffs there for the Six Invitational, but they were not expected to, and then they got eliminated fairly early in that situation. So they added Virtue from Fnatic and CTZN from Navi. I don't know if you actually say that differently other than the letters itself. But from
say
Navi,
Citizen.
two what are
Not
considered
Citizen?
really, what is it?
Citizen?
That could be it. I like what you did there. This is why I have you. Somebody 4 years younger than me.
Gotta get
Yeah,
lit,
so two big pickups for them. We'll see how that kind of enhances the roster and what that does for them. But I think changes were kind of expected.
So not hours after Riot dropped the deets for Valorant. Valorant? God, I hate that name. Not Bungie. 343 Studios announced that Halo CE is being released and has been released for PC. I didn't know this was coming out so soon. I was getting emails. Like, I got into the flights. I just never had time to go and play them. So I'm definitely going to have to go. I was going to play last night, but now that we're in this Counter-Strike tournament, I've had to put all games on hold. I at least got to warm up a little bit. I can't.
Not gonna lie, I've been playing the Division expansion.
Really?
I haven't
All
even.
right, so I bought the Division for $3. Sidebar from esports for a second. I bought it for $3, downloaded it, went on the next day to play it, and the servers were down. So I was like,
That's unfortunate.
well,
Done.
All right, we'll get back to you in a week after this Counter-Strike tournament's done. Thank you. But no, Halo CE, obviously.
How excited are you about this?
Well, I mean, that's the one that started it all, right?
Yeah, but
so
like,
for
how much are you gonna?
That is what I started. Halo was my first real competitive. Like, I went to tournaments to play Halo. So again, my opinion is full nostalgia. I know though, like for someone like you who never really played Halo, you would go like I'd be like, "Nooch, we gotta play it. We gotta play it." You would think it's very boring, but you also have to remember, it's an FPS made 20
Well,
years
and this
ago.
is the first. This is the Halo that I remember majority of, honestly.
Right. With
So
the
for me, it would
pistols
just be also. That's what I was gonna use the same word. Is it's gonna be more of a nostalgia trip playing
Yeah.
original Halo, because that's the one that obviously kind of just it blew up and all your
Yeah.
friends had it. And so I used to go to my buddies' houses and play the original Halo quite a bit. But that's the Blood Gulch and all that. That's what I remember. So
I'll get on.
cool.
I
but
definitely have to play the single player. I wonder how much multiplayer is out there for it, just because again, for the new mass appeal, it is a very like no fluff on that multiplayer when you compare it to
Yeah.
other stuff. So
yeah, I'm just waiting for Infinite at this point. I feel like I got enough games that keep me busy where I don't need to go backwards, I feel.
No. And like I said, I think that was part of their thing here, is right. They want to get the people in Halo back for setting up for an Infinite. In the FGC, Evo released some of the leading games for registration. Smash Ultimate is number 1. They didn't give numbers out, but Smash Ultimate is number 1 by who knows how much. Street Fighter is in 2nd. Grand Blue is in 3rd. Tekken, DBZ, and all them far behind. DBZ, I'm still surprised, because what was it, 2 years ago when that came out, like broke records for Evo.
Blew
for the number.
Up for Evo,
like,
yeah.
That was like set records for registration numbers, and then for it to see so far down, I don't play the game, so I don't know. Maybe it got stale for some people. It was just
seeing this list. It just makes me sad not to see Melee and Mortal Kombat on there.
Yeah, just a friendly reminder that they're not there.
Yeah.
And in other news, Toby Wan has been announced that he will be Code Red's head of broadcaster talent. Anytime I see Toby Wan, I will always give a shout out, because I do think he's one of the best casters esports has to offer. If you're not familiar with his work, he comes from the Dota 2 side. I would compare him to Anders. Like, he is the Anders of Dota. So
A good hire for them,
yeah,
for sure.
Good to see that. Warcraft 3, their first
This was
big
a
event.
blunder, dude. This could have been a yikes of the week. This one really had yikes potential. Maybe we should have thrown it in there. But yeah, their first big event was like terrorized by just disconnects, Tim. In the quarterfinals, you had both matches getting disconnected. Both of those matches were in the midst of big upsets happening. One of them with like 2 former Warcraft legends. One of the, the first match that happened where it was one of the upsets, it was twice the player was getting upset and got disconnected, and then ended up winning on the 3rd go around. And so that
So they just, when it disconnects, they just start fresh.
Yeah, they start fresh.
Oh.
And so you talk about, it's just not the Blizzard that I remember, unfortunately. It's just it seems to be like one thing after another when it comes to just bad press or something negative going on. This is a game that's 20 years old. I mean, it's so old at this point, and to have server issues, and these are not high intensive games, I wouldn't think, just in terms of it's a 1v1. Obviously there's a lot going on there, but you don't have 100 people connecting to a server. So to continue to have these issues, it's just it blows me away.
Well, Anuj, we made it 4 days in esports without anyone saying the N-word.
We're back, baby.
Back strong. As Flashpoint, of course, they were doing their qualifying tournaments and everything like that this week, and I think they're still going on. But they had no moderation in their chat for Twitch.
What are they doing with the 2 million per team buy-in?
I don't know. But they went like the opposite. They're like, ESL was like, you know what? We're going to moderate the chat so hard. We're even moderating live in stadium chat. Flashpoint was like, no mods whatsoever. And so,
say what you want.
Of course, if you went into that chat, Blizzard would have had their head explode with all the choice words people were using.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Corsair completes the purchase of Scuff Gaming. So that means Corsair obviously is Corsair now, Elgato, and Scuff. Pretty
Tech is what? Herman Miller, Astro, like they're all kind of like.
Oh, Astro is Logitech?
Yeah, Astro is Logitech.
Oh, I didn't know
now.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, the more you know. More you know. So yeah, that's a pretty good trio to own under yourself there. And away from esports here, but Half-Life Alyx is available March 23rd.
I might have to stream that. I'm gonna be getting that, so I'll be jumping in and testing that out, and that might be a fun one to stream.
And I will definitely
I've limited my play space pretty bad over here with this couch edition behind me, but I think I still got enough room to.
I will definitely go to your house to play that on your VR set, because I saw some
like
gameplay.
It'll be a fun one.
Looks pretty sick. Saw some gameplay. Looks pretty exciting. Speaking of exciting, it's the end of the show.
Depressing.
Well, I mean, it was a pretty long one, though. It's a pretty good one.
Sad.
Might have been the best episode ever. Because episode 218, it's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much for listening. Everyone in Twitch chat, thank you for stopping by. If you listened to the whole thing or skipped around, love you all the same. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Get up to date when we go live and everything there. Our Discord, we have plenty of people in that chat. Be sure to join the conversation there. Just added a highlight section. So if you get some sick play, or even if it's just from a tournament and you want to clip it, post it in that highlight section. Shout out to the one user in there that inspired me to do that, because you dropped like 7 highlights in a row in the Counter-Strike chat, and I was like, nope, not having that. So I created a highlight chat. So that's how you moderate. Though you cannot say the N-word in our Discord. So if you're a Flashpoint chatter, FaZe Clan, or Sadakist, I don't know if you'd want to join, but you can. Just don't say the N-word. We will be back Sunday night for Monday's show, so be sure and join us in the Twitch chat live for that if you can make it. We'd love to have you there, be a part of the show. But until then, for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.